Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And of course the most important updates are about the conversation that took place between the Chancellor of Germany Olaf Scholz and the President of Russian Federation Vladimir Putin. What exactly they were talking about we can't tell for sure, but the sources are saying that the call took place around 1 hour. And by the morning of the 16th of November we have first details, so let's discuss them. Vladimir Putin held a telephone conversation with Olaf Scholz, which took place at the initiative of Berlin, the Kremlin confirmed. During the telephone conversation between Putin and Scholz, a detailed and frank exchange of opinions on the situation in Ukraine took place. Putin recalled that the current crisis was a direct result of NATO's many years of aggressive policy. The Russian president noted that the Russian side has never refused and remains open to the resuming negotiations that were interrupted by the Kiev regime. Putin told Scholz that possible agreements on Ukraine should be based on new territorial realities and eliminate the root causes of the conflict, the Kremlin reports. Putin noted that unprecedented degradation of relations between Russia and Germany in all areas as a result of unfriendly course of German authorities. So, summarizing everything, we can make a conclusion the following: that Russia will never accept NATO joining, that Ukraine joining NATO. Russia will never accept Ukraine joining European Union. Russia will never return this territory that we can see on map colored with red color. And this is the situation. This is the situation and reality that Germany, Western countries, and Ukraine should accept if they want to establish strong peace in this area. Furthermore, later we got additional reports that Zelensky also was talking with Scholz, and Zelensky was asking Scholz not to call Putin. And we have some explanation of Zelensky's opinion and his position about one of today's news. This is the quotes of Zelensky. Chancellor Scholz told me that he was going to call Putin. Olaf's call, in my opinion, is a Pandora's box. Now there can be other conversations, other calls, just a lot of words. And this is exactly what Putin has wanted for a long time. It is extremely important for him to weaken his isolation, the isolation of Russia, and to conduct ordinary negotiations that will not end in anything. Furthermore, we got additional statements from Western politicals. They are calling the negotiation between Berlin and Moscow something like a renewal of Normand's group. If you remember, in 2014 and 2015, during the first stage of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, there was a format, group of countries that were trying to handle the crisis on the territory of Ukraine, and people are saying that the situation is coming back exactly to the same format. So we'll see, of course, what is going to be next, but obviously the situation is very interesting. Now let's talk about the line of combat contact. We have a lot of very interesting updates, and first we're going to talk about the Kupyansk offensive, where the Russians continue improving their positions, not just in the northeastern part of the settlement, but also already in the eastern part. Today we got the video, one of the most important video, and let's take a look at this. In this video we can see the Russian soldier that was surrendering the Ukrainian forces. Probably after several counterattacks from the Ukrainian side, the first Russian positions were destroyed, and the Ukrainians managed to capture several Russians. This event took place exactly in this area. And based on this video, we came to the conclusion that the Russians managed to get very deep inside of the eastern part of the Kupyansk, and we have colored this part in Russian favor. Now we can compare the map between the dates, and we can even discuss how the Russian offensive was developing in the northeastern part of Kupyansk since the beginning of this operation. And I'll remind you that on the 14th of, not even on the 14th, on the 11th of November, we got the first update that the Russians managed to dig in deeper in the vicinity of the stadium by the name of Oskol, but then we didn't make any changes because we didn't know for sure where exactly the Russians attacked and where exactly the Russians managed to dig in deeper. Just on the 14th of November we started receiving first videos of how the Russians were moving freely on the territory of the northeastern Kupyansk without seeing any resistance from the Ukrainian side. And later we started receiving almost every single day more and more videos that confirmed additional Russian progress on the the 15th of November, we can see another video with one tank, one Russian infantry fighting vehicle that were heading in the same southeastern, northeastern and the eastern part of the Kupyansk under very heavy fire from the Ukrainian side. And today on the 16th of November, we got the video how the Ukrainians managed to capture at least one Russian soldier already along the Svatovskaya Street. The place where the Russian soldier was captured was of course geolocated, and this video confirms that most likely the Russians managed to physically cut the road N26, and now the Ukrainians that are currently located in the fields in the territory between Kucherivka, Petropavlovka and fields further in the direction of Orlyanka along N26 road already got into operational encirclement, and not like operational encirclement, it's better to say the area without proper supply and support. And obviously within a week or two the Ukrainians in this area would be completely weakened, and the Russians will be able to force them to fall back. Let's follow the situation. Furthermore, we continue receiving updates from different sources about complete control over industrial zone in the northeastern part of Kupyansk. So no doubts that the industrial area was captured. The Russians continue advancing and the battle for Kupyansk has begun officially. Now let's move further. The Russians meanwhile continue developing their positions in the central Kupyansk direction between Kurakhove, Berestkovo and Pershatravnyo. The pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed additional progress of the Russians on the positions of the 77th Air Mobile Brigade. Now let's move further. Let's talk about the Siversk direction. And Siversk direction, some mappers began publishing information that the Ukrainians managed to counterattack the Russian forces between Belogorovka and Verkhnekamensk, and that Ukrainians managed to restore control over the highest point or over the elevation in this area. We're talking about Bilogora. So this is the situation by the end of the 15th of November. This is by the beginning of 16th. The Ukrainians restore control at least over this part. And as for the territory between the eastern part of Serebryanka and Grigorovka, according to different mappers, is colored as a gray zone because currently nobody understands what exactly is happening here. Now let's talk about the city of Chasiv Yar, and we start receiving the significant number of updates from this territory as well. We got one of the most important geolocation from already the outskirts of this Chasiv Yar citadel. Let's take a look. First we have this video, and in this video we can see two Russian soldiers that were entering positions along Dubrovsky Street. They entered some building, probably temporary deployment point or checkpoint for the Russian forces, and during the next video from the same area we can see the Ukrainian FPV drone that was attacking the Russian edge positions. So both videos confirmed that the Russians have complete control over the territory, and based on these two videos we have adjusted the map significantly, as you can see. So this is the situation by the end of the 15th of November, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 16th of November. The significant progress of the Russians continue advancing, and the battle for the Chasiv Yar citadel has begun. So the final days of the Chasiv Yar has begun, the final chapter of the citadel has begun. Now let's move further and let's talk about the city of Toretsk, and we see the significant number of clashes all over the line of combat contact. From one side, the Ukrainians continue improving their positions in the southern part of the Zabalka district. Another block was captured. We are talking about this one, but on the other side the Russians continue advancing in the western and the northern directions of the city as well. The Russians improved their positions in this part of Zabalka district, the Russians improved their positions in this part, and according to different mappers, the Russians established control over 40% of the settlement by the name of Dachna. So let's compare the map between the dates. This is the situation by the end of the 15th of November, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 16th of November. The Russians continue advancing, and we see that the Russians are intensifying their offensive operation, which means that they have some probably task to finish the battle for Toretsk at the same time with the end of the battle for Chasiv Yar, and most likely this is going to happen at the same date or some plus minus 1 week. Now let's talk about the Pokrovsk direction or the Kurakhove direction, where the Russians continue their offensive operation. Currently the main clashes are taking place during the previous night were taking place for the northern part of Kurakhove. The Russians continue outflanking the Ukrainian positions in Ilinka and Nova Ilinka and Berestki. At least according, this information was provided us by neutral mappers and by pro-Ukrainian mappers. The Russians are trying to outflank. Currently, we see that they decided not to answer both settlements themselves. They decided to outflank and most likely to establish complete fire control over the supply roads and maybe to encircle the Ukrainians on the territory of these two settlements or to force them to fall back. So this is the situation that was provided us by different mappers. As for the Uspienovka stronghold in the situation around, there are very heavy clashes right now, but without significant changes on the ground. The most important updates are coming from the southern part of Yelizavetovka. The Russians managed to improve their positions a little bit. At least this information was provided us by pro-Ukrainian mappers. So the Russians began advancing through this forest in the direction of Yelizavetovka, in the direction of the western part of this village. So we'll see what is going to be next. As for the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 4 nights, we haven't received anything. And the same story about the Chernigov direction. During the previous night, we haven't received anything. We got just one video of how the Russians were bombing the village of Gai. Some pro-Russian sources reported that the Russians during the previous night managed to answer the village of Grimach, but without any geolocations that can confirm this information. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.